So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do, just in case anybody else gets the footage, state your first name, last name, and spell it for me.
Randall Rockefeller, first name R-A-N-D-A-L-L, last name Rockefeller, R-O-C-K-E-F-E-L-L-E-R.
That's my...
That's good, you're a popular man.
That is my time to get up for work.
Oh,
yeah,
really? Okay.
I don't come in until 2:30.
Okay.
So anyway, let's just jump right into it. I mean, let's kind of just talk to me about the journey. I mean, this is all so new for you. So tell me about that.
Okay, so first of all, I recently just found this out a couple days ago. Don from the Department of Veterans Affairs initially contacted me and was telling me about the story. The way we discovered it, the way that I guess I came about of learning about the process was that my uncle noticed an obituary recently and he thought it was my father, but he wasn't quite sure. About 15 minutes later he texted me and said it was actually him. And then Don Clark from the VA contacted me. And then from there we started discussing, I guess, what's going on, and he told me the story about the dog. Is it Tic-Tac or
Tic-Tac?
Tic-Tac. I keep saying Tic-Tac. So Tic-Tac and the journey that the dog was separated from, and they were trying to rejoin the dog with his owner. And then this brought a lot of attention to the homeless veteran plight in Augusta, Georgia. So that was initially how I learned about it.
You didn't know your father. You didn't even know your father's side of the family. How did you even, and you said in your speech that you met them in the 4th of July. I mean, so you meet them, and now just kind of walk me back through that. Okay,
so a little bit of history. I was given up for adoption when I was an infant, so I didn't know him. I haven't seen him since I'm an infant. And then when I was about 13 years old, of course, I guess every child, they want to know where they came from. I was able to locate my father, and I left home without permission, basically like a runaway type situation. It was just for a couple of days. I'm sure everybody was worried. And I spent some time with him. So when we spent some time together, he actually had some four-wheelers, and he took me riding on the four-wheelers, which is obviously, I'm 45 years old today. I was 13 at the time. It's still a very vivid memory for me, even though it was only a 2-day event. So he took me learning how to ride four-wheelers. He even let me take, this is of course a different time, kids please don't do this, but he even let me take the four-wheeler like on my own, journeying through the woods, just riding. Of course I was a 13-year-old kid. I went crazy, which is probably why I still remember the experience. But mainly, looking back, even though it was 2 days, looking back after having raised a kid, experiencing life, I can appreciate what he probably felt during that moment, to take the time to teach your kid and enjoy a passion that you have and share that with your child. Of course, I still remember that today. And then probably, I guess it was around January of this year, I submitted my DNA to 23andMe, the genetic profile company. I was mainly just looking for family history. I wanted to know where I came from, ancestry, etc. But also, I'm getting older, so I want to know about genetic risk factors. After receiving the results, about 2 weeks after receiving the results, my first cousin, Cecilia, from Cocoa Beach, Florida, who would be his niece on their side. So she reached out to me and was just as surprised that I existed as well. So she reached out to me, and we were talking stories back and forth, trying to figure out who each other were. And can you pause it?
Yeah, it's not live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right,
I'll record it.
Yeah, just make sure you edit it.
Yeah, we will.
Okay, so yeah, she reached out and she arranged a 4th of July event. And I drove, my family and I, Kier, Ivy, my son Tristan, we drove from Tampa, Florida to Cocoa Beach, Florida, and I met his side of the family. So one of his sisters had 10 children. That would be Cecilia's mother. We met all of their children, which would be my cousins, first cousins, in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and they were all sharing stories of my father. They were just as surprised that I existed, the same that I was saying with her. So we spent the day over in Cocoa Beach, Florida, just learning about the family, which was very nice. So the 23andMe process actually shed light and brought this all to attention recently.
I want to ask you this before I jump into a little bit about the service. You submitted your DNA because you wanted to know where you came from. Then you found a family member. You reached out to them. And you hung out with them. My question is you've only met your dad once and you had a good time, but why are you? Why
am I here?
Not why are you here
okay.
now, but why are you?
I mean,
But why are you wanting to know, why are you coming out to meet your dad when you only met him once?
Right. Why do I feel the need to speak up?
That's the better question.
So the reason that I feel the need to speak up is, this whole situation, at least the way I experienced, the way my father experienced, it's an unfortunate situation. I looked for him over the years, just doing Google searches, but I never took the additional initiative to really go out and try to find him. I noticed there were several news stories that he, that had a couple of patents, but I never took the time. I know I lived, distant, et cetera, but I come to Augusta all the time to visit my grandma. I could have took the time to try to locate him, and I never took that opportunity. And I felt like this is a time that I should come and I should support him. Even though the memories are brief, but it's still very vivid. It was, I had a good time, and I can understand. I guess what makes it more important and really sheds light on it, when you become a father, then you actually understand. At the time, I didn't have any children. I was young. I just didn't understand. And now, I'm 45 years old. I've experienced successes and failures in life. I'm raising a child. I can understand what the heartache is that you feel during certain situations, and I can understand definitely the passion that you feel for your child and the things that you would do for your child, and the event things aren't quite working out the way you dreamed of.
Your family's been looking for him for the past 10 years. That's what they were telling me when I was on the phone with them.
Oh, yes.
The last time they saw him was in Italy. And we thought maybe a few people would show up. Me and Don were hoping this whole church was going to be packed out, which it was.
Yes.
So not only did his family find him, but he's got an extended family with Augusta. What goes through your mind when you see that, and how are you going to take that experience to, share experiences with your son?
Yeah, well, first of all, what's amazing, I didn't really get to experience him again in life, but in his passing, I discovered this huge family, and like I was saying earlier, his very noteworthy historical significance of his family. Like I said, both his parents served in World War II. He had a brother that served in country in Vietnam. He has family that are scattered across the United States, and large parts of family that are located in Florida. I thought that I always came from a small family. I have, my mother lives here, and then I have 2 uncles, and my grandmother's still living. I've always yearned to have a large family, but I just never, got to experience that. And then with the whole 23andMe process, I discovered that I had a huge family, and they actually knew the history of my father. So what I would like to say, and hopefully, this brings attention to others, that like I was saying earlier, that you never know when you pass somebody on the street, you never know their story. And his story was significant, and I would like for other people to, first of all, take the time when you pass somebody on the street, take the time and maybe try to get to know someone. If you have a distant relative, this is more related to my experience, but if you have a distant relative or an immediate relative and you haven't heard from them, take the time, do more than I did in this situation. Actually reach out. Don't wait for them to reach out. You reach out and see if you can reconnect. One thing that all of his family members said, and they're a very upbeat bunch, all of them are very positive, smiley, happy, joking, etc. They said if they just knew that he was in the situation that he was in, every one of them would have helped him. I only knew him for probably 3 days or 2 days that I can actually remember. I wish that I could go back and help him, but unfortunately we just can't go back. But hopefully, again, that bringing attention to the matter will help others avoid a similar situation.
Well, was this change your mindset now when you're driving on the street or you're walking downtown and you see a homeless person sitting on the side? Would that change your perspective, or
oh yes,
go up and talk to them?
It changed it immediately. We were sitting at I was meeting Don Clark from the Department of Veteran Affairs yesterday, and we were sitting at one of the, I guess it was a Rite Aid right across from the street, and I didn't know that Augusta, Georgia had such a homeless veteran issue. I just didn't know this. You see it on the news, but you never really get to live it and experience it. And immediately, like before this experience, I'd probably just like everyone else, I thought about it, probably even, avoid eye contact, hoping that, I wouldn't have to engage with them, just like probably most people. But immediately experiencing this, it just made me just rethink the whole situation and then, how I view it. So I hope that, others can, again, just learn from this experience.
Is there anything else you want to add that I'm failing to ask?
Okay.
No?
Well, I would like to, if I can, thank you. Can I thank my son, Tristan? Tristan, come over here. My son, Tristan, and my girlfriend, Kiara Ivy, for their support. I really Really appreciate it. This is my son. You can probably see, I can see some of the resemblance as we go down the family line. And one thing, this is something I didn't think about earlier. One thing I've noticed though is everyone was saying how my father was a tinkerer. He always liked to take things apart, fix them. Tristan does the same thing. He hasn't got to the point where he can fix it yet, but everything he comes in contact with, he destroys completely. Now I know where this comes from. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the days that you can put it back together again.
Maybe he'll patent something.
There you go. Maybe you'll get a patent, buddy.